The Hawaiian sky and ocean make a stunning backdrop for a wedding dress that gleams in the sunlight. The bride in that dress looks like she just stepped out of a fairy tale. But what if I told you that behind that adorable face is a woman who's more of a monster than a witch? I'm Sarah. I'm just your average homemaker in her late 50s. I have a daughter and a son, both of whom are now grown up and have families of their own. Feeling the empty nest syndrome, my husband Tyler and I are saving for a trip across America by me helping him out with his business. Tyler, who's almost 60, is the CEO of a construction company. He's the type of guy who wouldn't know what to do if he retired, so it looks like he'll be working beyond 60. We're a couple who need a common goal. Otherwise, we'd just get restless. But we've hit a little snag in our otherwise peaceful life. "Hi, Mom. I was free, so I thought I'd drop by," Rachel said cheerfully. Despite her cheerful greeting, my mouth twitches involuntarily. Get it together, Sarah, I think to myself. My son's wife has come to visit. "Hello, make yourself at home." "We don't have much, but sure thing," I reply. Rachel walks in with a smile, snapping pictures of the living room and decor with her phone. Butter cookies. Can we have something more Instagram-worthy?" she asks. I offer some cookies I received as a gift, and Rachel puffs out her cheeks in disapproval. All right, super cute, super cute. I used to say if you don't like it, don't eat it to my daughter Emily when she was young and picky," I remark internally. If Rachel wasn't my son's wife, I swear I'd give her a piece of my mind, I think. "I apologize, but these are actually quite popular these days," I say aloud. "Really? Well, I guess they look cute if you really look," Rachel concedes. She picks up a cookie with her long white fingers and begins taking multiple pictures, adjusting the angles of plates and cups. As I watch her, I shove a cookie in my mouth to stop myself from saying what's on my mind. My eldest son, Alex, got married 6 months ago, and his bride, Rachel, who's here right now. Alex met Rachel when he was a newbie doctor, and she was working at the front desk of a university hospital. The first time they met, I was surprised. She's tall and slender, has a small face but big bright eyes. She's simply adorable. Who would have thought she'd want to marry Alex? Tyler, my husband, was equally amazed. Kids these days look like dolls. Alex was head over heels for Rachel. She has a vulnerable aura that just makes you want to protect her, I think. Our daughter Emily, who was already married, was less impressed. "Big bro, your taste in women is just yikes," she remarked. I scolded her for that comment, but now I kind of get what she meant. After getting married, Rachel started coming over to our house every week alone, without Alex. You'd think she's just a sweet daughter-in-law who adores her mother-in-law, but I'm not so sure. She seems quite taken with our house. During our initial meet and greet, she couldn't stop gushing. "Wow, this place is like something out of a movie." Our home may be 50 years old, but it's a spacious modern marvel, complete with a grand spiral staircase and curated artwork. Don't get me wrong, compliments about the house make me happy, but her obsession is kind of creepy, I think. She takes pictures, roams around freely, and even lounges on the sofa. Sometimes I wonder, isn't this a bit rude for a newlywed in her in-laws' home? Is this how kids are these days? The young women at Tyler's company seem much more respectful, showing proper decorum, even if it's just for show. I've considered talking to Rachel about her behavior, but the role of a mother-in-law is often one that's easily disliked, so I've been hesitant. Then one day, Tyler got home early and bumped into Rachel. Since Alex was on a night shift, the three of us ended up having dinner. With Tyler around, Rachel refrained from taking photos, and we had a peaceful meal. But then, over coffee, Rachel dropped a bombshell. "Do you plan to leave this house to Alex?" I nearly spat out my coffee at the blunt question. Unaware of her attachment to the house, Tyler looked puzzled. This house is meant to go to Emily," he replied. Rachel looked stunned but quickly recovered. "Aren't eldest sons usually the ones to inherit property? This is so unfair," she protested. Tyler replied, "Alex is a doctor. Emily and her husband will inherit this house and run my business. Besides, this house belongs to Sarah, not me." Rachel looked at me with disbelief in her eyes. Tyler spilled the beans, so I had no choice but to fill her in. This house was built by my grandfather. Tyler's company was originally started by him too. You see, this house was built when my grandfather's construction business started to take off. It has elements of an open house design from that era, making it quite luxurious and modern. My dad inherited both the house and the company, but neither my sister nor I had an interest in construction, so I met Tyler at a party. He was the second son of a construction company. We knew. We got married, and he took over. Rachel still seemed unhappy, pouting like a little child, but still, it's usually the first son who inherits everything, right? We've spent a good deal of money on Alex's private medical school education, I add, hoping to placate her. He understands, so it's not a problem. Besides, this house serves as a place to entertain clients, but this house may be steel-framed, but it's old and needs a lot of maintenance. I'm sure Alex will build you a wonderful house that suits you both. Neither Tyler's reasoning nor my explanations seem to reach her. I want this house. I even told everyone that we're going to live here. Rachel brushes off our kindness and continues to insist. I finally lose my patience and raise my voice. Know your place and stop embarrassing yourself. This house and we aren't here for your vanity. This isn't your parents' house, it's your in-laws. Understand? For the first time, Rachel is silenced by my reprimand. She clenches her lips and leaves without saying goodbye. I told you Alex has no eye for woe. The next day, Emily, after hearing the story, is quite angry. Well, he's always been a quiet, studious type, not really the kind to talk to girls much. But there were good girls around him too, right? Like Lily. Lily and Lily? Yes, his only female friend is probably Lily. Lily is a childhood friend of Alex's who lives nearby. She's always looked out for Alex, who was a laid-back guy and an easy target for bullies. Even as an adult, they're still in touch. Lily is tall, has sharp eyes, and is responsible, the complete opposite of Rachel. It would have been reassuring if you chose someone like Lily. Exactly, Emily eagerly agrees. But Lily has the right to choose too, and since Alex chose Rachel, we have to accept it. I just hope this incident makes her reflect a bit. Rachel is 24, the youngest sibling with two much older brothers. I'd always noticed that my son Alex's fiancée, Rachel, was the apple of her family's eye. That's why I tolerated her naive and slightly spoiled behavior. I hoped she'd grow and mature as she learned more about the world. I was quite forgiving in my own mind, or so I thought, but she turned out to be a monster beyond my imagination. Hi, Mom. 2 weeks after that incident, Rachel shows up unannounced on a weekday afternoon with her as an unfamiliar man. I thought she came to apologize, but that didn't seem to be the case. Rachel, who's this? Nice to meet you, Mrs. Johnson. I'm Davis from Johnson & Associates. A man with an old-fashioned side-parted hairstyle and black-framed glasses bows politely as he hands me his business card. It says Attorney Matthew Davis, under the name of the law firm Johnson & Associates. Attorney from Johnson & Associates, right? Why would an attorney visit my home? Actually, I heard from this young lady that your house is an illegal structure. As a lawyer, I can't ignore this. What? My house an illegal structure? I heard it from Alex. I was so shocked that you were doing something wrong, Rachel chimes in, making a face like she can't bear it any longer. Having no idea what I was talking about, I could only give a dumb reply. I have no clue what Alex told Rachel about this house. But one thing is certain, Rachel is likely misunderstanding Alex's words, and she's standing here with ill intentions. At this point, even my well of patience exploded. I wanted to treat Rachel with care because Alex chose her, but if she wants to pick a fight, bring it on. Excuse me, I'm a bit taken aback by your sudden visit with a lawyer. May I record this conversation? I want to review it thoroughly later, I asked the attorney, my voice trembling as if I were frightened of being found guilty. Of course, the attorney nods condescendingly. So I pull out my smartphone and hit the record button. So, Mr. Davis, what should I do if I'm in violation of the law? Face the penalties and promptly remodel your home. Remodel? Well, some people might think if it's against the law, just fix it, right? Then please hand over the house to this young lady here. What? How do we get to this point? That's a huge leap in logic. I'm genuinely shocked. Why? I can't let someone who disrespects the law continue to live here. Someone pure of heart like this young lady should be the one to reside here. Mom, I'll make this house even better. Rachel grabbed my hand with misty eyes but with a smug face. Ah, okay, I see what's going on. In that case, please carry out these renovations. This is the consent form. I skim through this so-called consent form. I get the renovations to fix violations part. It's vaguely worded but okay. But installing a brand new kitchen, bathtub, and toilet? That's ridiculous. I can't help but mentally question it. The consent form seems to have been drafted over some internet research, but for a document written in such formal language, it's a mess. They're going to regret putting this together. I understand what you're getting at. However, I'm not giving up this house. Why not? Rachel glares at me with a fierce expression. Her true colors are showing unfazed. I confidently reply, because this house isn't illegally built. Both of them let out stunned noises at the same time. What? Rachel starts to panic. But Alex said our family home is illegally built, I calmly respond. Did he say if you were to build it now? Sure, if you were to build this house here now, it would be illegal. But did you know that houses built before the law was amended are classified as non-conforming existing buildings and are exempt? The lawyer would know this, right? I abruptly shift the topic to the lawyer. Of course. The lawyer struck an enthusiastic victory pose. No, you clearly don't get it. That's why you're here. A non-conforming building is one that was legally built under old laws, but became non-conforming due to changes in current laws. In the case of this house, it would need to be set back by about 6 FT to meet current regulations. You do realize that because this is a non-conforming property, major renovations or remodeling are problematic, right? Yes. The lawyer nodded his head vigorously like a bobblehead. If you knew that, then what was all that talk before? He's so clueless, it's actually amusing. But I've got to set him straight. By the way, Mr. Davis, are you really a lawyer? Huh, Mom, it's not nice to doubt people like that. I could sue you, Rachel snapped. Yes, I am a lawyer, and I have many ways to sue you, the lawyer blustered. Then where's your badge? Rachel challenged. The lawyer blinked in surprise. Wow, he doesn't even know that you need an attorney's badge. After a moment of silence, the lawyer slapped his hand and said, yes, that's a very important item, so it's displayed in my office. Oh, come on. It's not a trophy, but lawyers are required to carry it when practicing, aren't they? He's at a loss for words, so I sighed and said, never mind. Let's have Mr. Smith bring it over. Mr. Smith? He's a lawyer at Johnson & Associates. You do know him, don't you? Yes, Mr. Smith. He's a colleague of mine, the lawyer stammered. A colleague? You're joking. The age difference alone, this guy can't even keep his story straight. Mr. Smith is the managing partner. He's been our family lawyer since my father's time. Even the so-called lawyer, or should I say the fake lawyer, is now scratching his head and groaning. No need to cover it up anymore. You're done. So, Mr. Davis, hey, you're a lawyer, right? So you should know that it's a crime to impersonate a lawyer without a license. The fake lawyer let out a scream, as if he'd seen a ghost and ran away. He sprinted towards the front door, shoving his feet into his shoes haphazardly and grabbed the doorknob, left in utter disbelief. Rachel snapped back to reality and ran after him. Wait up, Matthew. Hey. Rachel, this is not what we agreed on. I said I'd help because you told me this was easy money. That's terrible, Matthew. You said leave it to me, didn't you? Their arguing voices trailed off as they got into a car in the parking lot. I dropped through the intercom and even made a recording. Then I called the real Johnson & Associates shortly after. An irate attorney from the real Johnson & Associates reported the incident to the police, and both the impersonator and Rachel were easily arrested. Since I had a legitimate lawyer with me from the get-go, everything at the police station went smoothly. Not only did Rachel and the imposter falsely identify as lawyers, but they had also created business cards and documents. They violated both the legal profession regulations and minor offense laws, adding fraud charges to the mix. They managed to get out on a not-so-cheap bail, but now they have an arrest record. I had already told them that building on that land would be against the law due to the age of the building. I never thought they'd be so stubborn. Alex, who had been assisting in a major surgery, found out about the whole fiasco the next morning. To avoid causing any inconvenience to the patients, the police had waited to contact Alex. Hearing the news, Alex looked pale and disheartened. You even roped in your affair partner for this scheme. You've chosen quite the bride. Emily, who had rushed over out of concern for me, told Alex with a weary look. That's right. The fraudulent lawyer turned out to be Rachel's former affair partner. Matthew was Rachel's ex-boyfriend, and they had a history of breaking up and getting back together. During a long separation, I can't believe Alex remarried and is even going to have a child. And the best part is he's with Lily. Can't beat that. I can't help but laugh when Emily nods in agreement so contentedly. Yes, his new wife is none other than our childhood friend Lily. Lily had seemingly harbored a crush on Alex since elementary school. She'd been taking him out for drinks and such, concerned about him post-divorce. Thanks to her, Alex finally recognized the woman who truly cherished him. Man, you're so on the uptake, Alex. But seeing the two of them happily together made me glad too. So I decided to transfer the ownership of this house that Rachel had been so obsessed with to Emily a bit sooner than planned. Tyler's back has been hurting, and the stair-spare case has been becoming a problem. Issues like these will only increase as we age, so we bought a single-story, conveniently located house to spend the rest of our lives. Of course, once Tyler's back is healed, we're even planning to go on a cross-country trip across the United States. Emily still hasn't decided whether she will maintain this house as is or renovate it, but the shape of the house really doesn't matter to me. What's most important is that wherever we live, our family is smiling.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons. leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, "I'm moving to the sales department soon." If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. "Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it." On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. "It's still working hours." Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. "Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived." I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. "They look good." "What are you talking about?" "These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. "Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us." "The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one?" As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself. This could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.